everybody. Welcome to this episode of Rush Roots. Here we have Chris. Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, where you're from.
My name is Chris Bates, and I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm a professional jazz bass player. And I'm just also like a mega Rush head, so super hyped to be hanging out with you guys right now.
Awesome. Glad
That's
to have you.
great. All right. Well, why don't you tell us how you got into the band and what kept you around? What kept you interested? Tell us your
Sure.
Rush roots.
All right. Well, it's actually kind of a two-part story, but the first part is sort of the classic introduction. My friend it was 1983, seventh grade, and my friend Martin walked up to me with a dubbed cassette and handed it to me and said, "You play bass, right? You'll like this." And it was a copy of Moving Pictures, and I slapped it in my Walkman, and I pressed play, and the whole thing blew my head off, and that was
Oh yeah.
and that was the
Oh yeah.
end, 13-year-old kid, like,
There you
woohoo,
go.
there it
That's
is. Like, you just hit the magic button on my whatever personality that was for me. And so, you know, I just like went totally into it right away, and I tried to listen to as much stuff as I could through that time. And then I honestly, I think I listened to nothing but Rush from seventh grade through ninth grade, like just every album, everything. And in ninth grade was when Power Windows came out, and that was the first time I saw him in concert. And
nice. Nice.
and so that was anyway. And then we get up through high school and into college, and I'm still going to concerts and hanging out. But then I was getting really, really serious about jazz music and becoming an artist on the double bass, which is a totally different instrument than the electric bass.
Oh yeah.
And so I just sort of like moved out of that zone of being like just super captivated by Rush. I was, getting into all sorts of other music because what I was wanting to do was be a professional musician. So I had, I was absorbing all this different stuff. And so then I sort of just put that on the back burner, and I had this kind of like long, like, so that was around 1993. And then fast forward through to 2003, when the Rush in Rio DVD came out, and I was working at a record store. But I had gone on the road and I had done all this stuff, and I knew the other records came out, and I knew about Victor, and I knew about My Favorite Headache and Vapor Trails even, and I knew that Neil's family had passed away, and all of that stuff was just. So I was still aware of everything that was going on with the band, but I was just not focused on it. And then I put that DVD in on a night when I was home solo parenting. My wife went out with some friends and got my son to sleep, and I put that Rush in Rio DVD on, and it was like the exact same experience 20 years later, 1983, 2003, boom,
Nice.
like just right
Yeah.
away. And it starts with Tom Sawyer, so it was like this very bizarre parallel there.
Yeah.
And then that just, my buddy Tom calls it the Rush Renaissance. Like, I just
Yeah.
literally went all back in, and then went through and I had new records to listen to because I hadn't really checked out Counterparts or Test for Echo or Vapor Trails. And
Oh
so I
wow.
just had like, you know, I just like went
It's
away
like
from
a
that stuff. And
You just
then,
completely reinvented
yeah.
yourself, kind of
yeah,
like
Yeah.
what
It's sort
Neil
of
did after,
this.
Test for Echo era.
right,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, and there's some parallels
Very
there
cool.
too, like just as a writer and an artist,
Yeah.
like he gave us so many amazing messages that we could
Yeah.
take through our lives and interpret from different perspectives. And so all actually, like a couple years after that, I ended up having some really tough stuff in my life, and was reading Ghost Rider at the time, and
Mm.
that like helped me process a bunch of things and helped me
Sure.
learn more about myself. And it just made me realize that like that band and that aesthetic was like all encompassing, and it gave me all these different ways of thinking about the world. So and here we
Yeah.
are now.
Wow. That's
Awesome.
awesome.
That's a
That's
great
an
story.
awesome story. I like it. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, that
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
really cool. It's like
it's a
you
little,
discovered Rush twice in a way.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Which
I
is
was always
fun.
in touch with it, but it was also
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
you're just like, okay, cool, I listen to that. I mean, we all have things like that. Like maybe you get into sports and you do something and then it goes away, and
Go
then
back.
suddenly you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this baseball game's on again. I'm gonna watch this, and then you get all obsessed with it
right.
again. So
Yeah,
yeah, I had these like
for sure.
two moments of real galvanizing my obsession, and then for this 2007 was when I could see them again on tour. So actually saw Snakes and
Snakes and
Arrows
arrows. Yeah.
three times on that tour.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
And
Nice.
then but yeah, so I saw, Power Windows through Roll the Bones tours, and then I saw Snakes and Arrows all the way to the end. So,
Okay,
Nice.
and got to take
Nice.
my son to the
that's
R40
awesome.
tour. So that was a pretty
Yep.
nice
Nice.
full circle moment as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, the next thing I was going to ask was kind of when, where, and what tour your first Rush show was. But you said your first show, or your first tour was Power Windows. I guess when and if you
Yeah.
remember the date and where,
Oh,
what was
no,
what was
yeah.
the venue?
Got it right here, man.
Nice.
March 26th, 1986, at the St. Paul Civic Center in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is
Okay.
our sister city right across the river.
Right.
And
Cool.
my older brother took a few weeks of convincing my mom to drop some dough on some
Yeah.
tickets, even though they weren't nearly as expensive as
Yeah.
they were at the end of the era. But
Right.
and we
Yeah.
were way up in the top, on the side, and I think we were like 2 rows from the top of the arena.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Getty, everyone's like microscopic,
Mhm.
and I had some binoculars, but I distinctly remember Big Money and the after the synth breakdown before the guitar solo, and then when Getty jumps back on the bass after the synth stuff, and I just remember this like surge, and even though I was that far away, it was like that zoom effect where I felt like this is entirely for me, and I just
Yeah.
was like
Yep.
completely into it.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I mean,
great.
similar to Jerry's experience that he talked about in his episode of just
Sure.
like every song was just like, yay, they're playing this one. Oh my
Better than
gosh.
the next. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, so that was that. And yeah, I mean, I'm super fortunate to see them many times
That's
since
awesome.
then. So
That's awesome.
Cool.
yeah.
Well, what was your first favorite song and your first favorite album? And how does that differ from your favorite song and favorite album today?
This is just like all the deep people who are into this band, like it fluctuates so much. But I mean, I would say Moving
Yeah.
Pictures because it was the first record that, I got. And
Right.
so for that one, the ones that, I mean, I loved all of it, but Red Barchetta and Vital Signs were the ones that I really dug more than the other ones, even though I know all of those backwards and forwards. My other first favorite would probably be Power Windows because it was the first record that came out when I was a super fan and the first tour I saw. And if I picked a couple songs off there, I'd say Middletown Dreams, Marathon, or Grand Designs.
Yeah.
But I would say then for the Renaissance period,
Yeah.
the Vapor Trails tour, that DVD, the Russian Rio thing, obviously like YYZ and all of that stuff where the crowd is just going nuts. I mean, I was actually crying during a couple of those moments because it just brought me back to this like
Sure.
amazing thing. But the tune that really solidified it for me on that is Earthshine. And then that got me back. Like I had listened to Vapor Trails when it came out, but I didn't connect with it on that level. And then through that song, I went backwards and forwards in the record, and like it all started to like fall in place.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I just like, yeah. And now, I mean, that's one of my favorite records of the new era for sure. Like I can't. I don't know. They're all awesome. It does. You
Yeah,
can't.
it's tough.
Yeah,
That's
it's hard
tough.
to pick one.
But yeah, I mean, that really like Earthshine is such a heavy song and such a beautiful message. So always been a big thing for me is the lyrical side of it is so great. It's just so much more stimulating than most other pop and rock songs. So
I feel like
For sure.
Earthshine is also one of the songs that so that they remixed Vapor Trails, right? In
yeah.
what, 2013 I think it was that it came out. Or 2014. I can't remember the year that came out, but uh the remix version. But I feel like Earthshine was awesome on both, whereas some people pick their favorite version, but I feel like Earthshine was one that was well
Stood up
done.
on either mix, yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
And I got into the mix. I got so into that record that I was like, I love the new remixed version as well, but like
Hmm.
I still put on the old Vapor
Oh,
Trails
I get
sometimes
it.
just to like be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's something in here. I gotta find it. That's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
anyway, that's
All
That's
right.
awesome.
great.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us, where people can find you on Instagram or any other social media you want to, you know, let
Yeah,
people know of in case they want to, send you a message, get to know you a little bit more, become Rush friends.
yeah, I would love it. I have a few really good buddies, some ladies too who are way into it. And but yeah, my Instagram handle is double_Bates, like my last name, and double
Got
bass,
it.
like
Yep.
my instrument. And then
Nice.
Twitter is double Bates. Facebook is just my name, but and then my website is doublebates.com if you want to go check out what I'm doing actively as a musician. You can find music that I've played on and other things. So
Cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, for sure.
Cool, man. Is there anything else you want to share about you in terms of being a Rush fan before we wrap up?
Uh, well, I don't know. The light's kind of bad over here, but did actually think of this one thing because it's one of the things that connects me to my wife. This is her. Here, we'll see if I can get this in the shot. That's the lyrics to Madrigal
Oh,
Oh, nice.
wow.
that she wrote
Yeah.
in calligraphy class in when she was in high school or something like that. So that's one of those
Nice.
bizarre things that, like, when I met her, we just hit it off in this way.
So
And
your wife was a Rush fan before she met you, and you guys hit it off because of Rush, or?
uh, she, I met her through a drummer friend of mine who's her brother. And she and her sister, who are older than he and I, are the same age, and they're a little older, and they got him into Rush. And so, whatever. Then I was living with Billy um, during this period of my life, and then I met my wife Leanne, and yeah, we just hit it off on that level. And then at one point, she's like, "Oh, I think I still have that at my parents' house." And then I was when we bought our house, I was like, we got to get that down here. And so it's
Yeah.
been
Yeah, for
enshrined
sure.
in my space
Oh my
since
God.
then.
Nice.
Good
That's
grief.
awesome.
Yeah,
Cool,
and
man.
That's
she
crazy.
actually went to the Grace Under Pressure tour. That was her first
Yeah.
show.
Nice.
I missed that one, but then she and I have been to a bunch of shows since Snakes and Arrows. So yeah,
Sweet.
That's so
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
Jeez,
yeah.
if my wife told me she had handwritten the lyrics to Madrigal and had them in her parents' basement, okay, you want to get married again?
right,
All
right.
right, all
No,
right,
that's
cool.
just like fun
That's
fact.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's so sick. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
goofy stuff.
Cool, man. Hey, Chris. Well, thanks for joining us today. Anyone that wants to come on an episode of Rush Roots, please feel free to direct message us on Instagram at Rush Fans or shoot us an email, rushfansinstagram@gmail.com. And with that, we will wrap.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, you guys.